This is a very quick recipe. I'm going to be making a pasta soup, a tomato and pasta soup. And it is so quick and so easy. You'll love it. So first of all, put your heat on. Whoops, not on that one, on this one. So on it goes, on a medium to high heat. And in my pan, I've got a soup mix. Well, it's part of a soup mix, about a quarter of a soup mix. And to that, I'm going to cut up some streaky smoked bacon that I've had in the freezer. And just chop it up into little pieces. There's about, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 slices here. And I'm cutting them into centimetre pieces. I'm just going to let that cook away and brown up in the pan. So we're going to cook this until it's all soft and the bacon's cooked and nice and crispy. Okay, so now that everything has softened and my bacon has cooked through, it's not crispy but it is cooked. I'm going to add some stock in the form of 1 stock cube, so in that goes, and with it some hot water. So we're going to put in about a pint of hot water. And what we're going to do is just let these vegetables cook. I do find that you have to do this because we're going to be adding tomatoes later. And there's something about tomatoes that stops carrots and stuff cooking. I don't know what it is. Must be the acids or something in it. I don't know. But it does tend to leave my vegetables really hard. So I tend to cook my vegetables first and then add everything else in. You don't need to use bacon, you can just use sausage. It's up to you what meat you put in here. It's purely for flavour and to give it some body. So we're just going to wait a few minutes and let this cook through. So it's been boiling for a couple of minutes. So what I'm going to do now is just check to see if it is cooked. And the way I do that is I get a little piece of the vegetable and I put a fork in it, and that is totally soft, so that's good. Once that's done, we're going to pop our meatballs in because we want them to cook. If you want to first, you can brown them, that's up to you, but I have found it makes no difference apart from colour, but it's going to be covered in tomato sauce, so it should be fine. I'm going to add some Italian seasoning. We live on Italian seasoning. But we're going to add about half a teaspoon, more if you wish. Some garlic salt. We don't want a lot of garlic just to enhance the flavour. So pop that in. And a couple of bay leaves. And then give it a stir. And we're going to let them cook for a few minutes before we add anything else. After a few minutes, what we need to do is add our bolognese sauce. So we'll be adding that straight in. And don't forget to rinse out your jar. Put a little bit of water in it, shake it out, and then pop it in. On top of that, we need to add our chopped tomatoes. There we go. And again, rinse out your tin. Give it a swirl and pop it in. Okay, then give it a turn. And we're going to let this cook through now for about 10 minutes to make sure that your meatballs are cooked before we add our pasta, because that only takes a few minutes. So once your water starts boiling vigorously, or once your soup starts boiling vigorously, what you need to do is add your pasta. And I have some chicken, show you over here, chicken and chorizo pasta, which I'm going to pop in now. Be careful, you don't want this to splash back at you. Now it will soak up quite a bit of the fluid in there, so make sure that if you need to add any extra water, that you've got a hot kettle to hand. It depends how thick you like your soup. And that needs to cook for 5 minutes. I think it was, 4 minutes. You can actually put some wine in the soup if you wish. Make sure to boil it for about 5 minutes though, so that, got something different there. So that you get rid of the alcohol if you've got kiddies around. If you haven't, then take it how you wish. It's a few more minutes, so just check it, taste it, see what it's like. Pop some pepper in. Now I would advise plenty of pepper, but I love pepper, especially black pepper. So go with your heart on that one. If you don't like a lot, don't put a lot in. You could also put chili flakes in if you like it slightly spicy. My family don't really. As you know, we're all wimps in this household. So another thing to check for when you're testing is sugar. Do you need any? Because sometimes tomatoes can be a little bit acidic, so just be aware of that. And if you feel like you need some sugar in there, just sprinkle about ½ teaspoon in. Now you can put into this whatever you want. Peppers, onions, whatever you want. I've just made a simple version with what I've got lying around. And this is my soup ready now. So we start with 500 grams of beef mince, and we pop it in our pan, stick the heat on, and then we brown it. When it gets to the stage where it's all brown, it's time just to take it off the heat for a while and get a dish, pop it into a dish while we do our vegetables. So just, pop that way. Okay, while that's in a dish, it's time to add onions, one onion chopped finely, a grated carrot, 1 orange pepper and 1 red pepper, and just pop it in. I'm going to soften these. So just keep going for a few minutes until everything starts to soften. If you don't want anything to burn, if you add a bit of salt, just a little bit, what will happen is that the juices, the water will start to come out of the vegetables and stop the vegetables from browning. So a handy little tip there. Okay, now things are starting to soften, it's time to add your mince back in. So all of it goes in, juices and all. That gives you the flavour. Mix it all in. And what we're going to add to this is first of all some garlic, and I have some lazy garlic here. And I'm going to add a teaspoon of garlic. This is ½ teaspoon, so I'll add a full teaspoon. If you want to add more, you can do. On top of this, we need to add ½ teaspoon of celery salt. If you've got celery, you can use celery instead. Then we're going to add a teaspoon of coriander, a teaspoon of thyme, more if you want, a teaspoon of oregano, ½ teaspoon of chili flakes, and ½ teaspoon of chili powder. We may add more later depending on how hot it is. And then of course, a teaspoon of cumin. And then mix it all in. into that, I'm going to add a red wine stock cube just to give it some flavour. I do like the flavour that the red wine stock cube emits, it's lovely. And 1 normal OXO cube. Of course you can use any stock cube you want. And just crumble that in. Give that a mix around. And I'm going to add about half a pint of water, or just until it's covered. There we go. And we're going to let that cook for a minute or two, just to let all the flavours come together. This may not be the way most people make it, but this is how I make it. Okay, on top of that what I need is some Worcester sauce. So a splash of Worcester, let your heart decide on that one, some like, some don't. Then once all of your fluid has evaporated, which it hasn't just yet, we're going to add tomatoes. So that's evaporated nicely. I'm just going to tip in 1 tin of basically finely chopped tomatoes, or passata if you want. It's up to you, that one. Keep your tin for a moment, we're going to use it. And 1 tin of chopped tomatoes. So these are slightly chunkier. And pop those in, if we can get them in. There we go. Better. Keep that for a moment, and then we're going to mix that in. And what we're going to put in there with that is a bay leaf, just 1 bay leaf, just to help it round out the flavour. So 1 bay leaf, if I can get hold of one, going in, and then half fill your cans that you've had tomatoes in with water. Swish them around and pour them in. And then stir in. Right, we're going to leave this to cook for a while, and then we're going to add some beans. After it's been cooking for about 5 minutes, take your beans, drain them. I'm using 3 bean salad here because I didn't have any kidney beans on me, and just pop your beans into your chilli. Now you can actually use baked beans for this. I have done that in a pinch. There we go, all in. And give them a good old stir in, and they need to heat through for a wee while. So just keep an eye on the levels of moisture in your chilli. If it's looking a bit dry, then stick some more water in, and then when it's ready we'll taste it. So that I'm going to leave for about 5 or 10 minutes just to cook through nicely. After it's been cooking for a few minutes, for about 10 minutes, and it's thickened a little bit to your liking, you can either A, add some more liquid if you find it too thick, or B, just leave it and let it cook a bit more. It's up to you, but boiling it away will help to reduce the volume of water in it, volume of fluid in it. So it's always a good idea. So now's the time to take out your bay leaf. Just take that out. And to taste for any sort of alterations that you need. So we're going to taste it for spiciness, for sourness, salt and pepper. So let's have a look. We just need the sauce for this. There's enough salt there. Yep, spice comes through right at the end, that's good, and I can taste the cumin. And there's enough pepper in there. Doesn't need any sugar. That's fine, that's ready. So what I'm going to do now is knock that off and tell everybody tea's ready.